People think that retirement mistakes only happen if you don't save enough money, but even people who've saved a lot of money still get tripped up. In this video, I'm gonna lay out 3 big mistakes that I've seen people make and then show a case study for each one to help you avoid them before it's too late. Before I do, I'm Brad Lineberger, certified financial planner and founder of Seaside Wealth Management, here to help you get more out of life with your money. And if you like saving and investing for retirement, subscribe below and we'll send you more. The first mistake I see people make is claiming Social Security at the wrong time. Now, for some, taking it early at 62 makes the most sense. For others, delaying a little longer is better. Many people like to claim it as early as possible at 62, and for some folks that's the right call. But for others, it can be disastrous. So now I'm going to show you a couple of studies of where it makes sense to take it early versus later, and regardless, you need to have the right strategy for you. So you hear a lot of people say, delay your benefit as long as possible. And sometimes that's the right call. I'm going to give you a case study of working with a couple here who, when we put their plan together, even though Social Security was going to be larger if they delayed it, we took a look at what happens if they took their benefit earlier. And so in the first iteration of their plan, you could see that they were going to retire right here at age 60, and they had about $1.37 million, and they were going to then turn Social Security on at full retirement age. And by doing this, we had projected that at age 90, they were going to have about 1.3 million left. So they're in pretty good shape, and their probability of success was not too bad at 100%. So all that was good. But how do we make them go from good to great? And in this situation, by taking their Social Security benefits earlier, it protected and preserved their investment portfolio for longer. And you can see right here that by taking Social Security earlier, it put an extra $549,000 in their pocket and really resulted in them being able to have more money, which ultimately they were able to pass on to the kids. So for this couple, taking Social Security at 62 was absolutely the right call. I'm going to contrast that with another couple who, for them, the better decision was to take the benefit at age 70. And you can see that by taking the benefit at age 70, this was for both of them, both husband and wife, it was going to result in over $1.1 million being paid out by the time they made it to 80. And if they made it to 90, this strategy was going to put $2.24 million in their pocket. And I know that the probability of both of them making it to 100 is very low, but if they did, it was nearly $3.4 million that was going to be paid out to them. So for them, when we were comparing, the primary strategy was both of them delay till 70, and we wanted to compare, should they take it at 62? And certainly if they did take it at 62, they would be ahead in the beginning. Compared to the primary strategy, taking it earlier did make sense if they weren't going to live that long, but both of them were in good health, they were in good shape, they exercised regularly, their parents both made it into their early 90s, and so for them, the strategy of delaying put an extra $456,000 in their pocket compared to taking it at 62. And so the point I'm making here is, it doesn't matter what the media says, it doesn't matter what your neighbor decides to do, or your brother-in-law, or your relative for that matter. All that matters is that you make the right choice given your plan, which should be based on your circumstances and also your values and your life situation too. So it's really important that you have a strategy around claiming your Social Security benefit, and that you do that in the context of your overall financial plan, because there's a lot of ways to get this thing wrong. The second big mistake that I see people make is ignoring required minimum distributions and taxes. So the first thing is, if you don't take an RMD, there's a 25% penalty if you miss it. But I think even more penalizing is that poor planning can result to huge required minimum distributions in the future, leading to a big sticker shock when it comes to paying your tax bill. Let me show you what I mean. So I had this couple here who'd both done a really good job of planning and saving, and they did what they thought they were supposed to do, which is put money into their 401k, which is all pre-tax. And so they had retired there in their early 60s and they were cruising along and things were great until required minimum distributions kicked on there at 75. And the first year that the required minimum distributions got real heavy, there was over $130,000 in their first RMD. And as we keep going down here, there was plenty of years where we were projecting RMDs to be more than $250,000. So this was going to be huge. And when we looked at their overall tax bill, we were projecting nearly a $3 million tax bill in their lifetime if they did nothing about it. And we always talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good in their situation was they're going to have a lot of money left at the end of life. In fact, when we see situations like this, I typically tell people, you need to spend more money. You need to go on more vacations, take the kids, take the grandkids, travel more, go to Europe, travel, fly first class, whatever it takes. You can't take this with you when you go. No, it's not about accumulating the most. It's about living the best life that you can. So the first point I'll make is, if this is describing you, figure out a way to spend it or give it away to charity or just help the kids out if you want to. So they were clearly in a good situation, but the bad situation was this huge tax bill that was staring them in the face over their lifetime. And the thing I'll show you is, you can see that as soon as the required minimum distributions kick on, that's when the tax bill gets really, really heavy. In fact, we were projecting that they were going to be in the 24% tax bracket here towards the end of life, ultimately resulting in nearly a $3 million tax bill. What I want to highlight though is, you see all of this white space here where there's not a lot of tax bill? That's the years that we call the gap years. And these are the years between when you retire and when required minimum distributions kick on there, which for anybody born before 1960, your RMD age is 73. And anybody born 1960 or later, your RMD age is 75. And so what we did with this couple here is we really helped them to take advantage of the gap years by doing Roth conversions, especially because you can see it right here. For many years, they were in either the 12 or even the 10% bracket for almost a decade. And when we see clients in the 10 or the 12% bracket, we're literally pounding the table. I'm doing cartwheels. I really can't do cartwheels. My daughters can, but I can't. They're pretty incredible, actually. But we are excited when we see people in the 10 and the 12% bracket because, watch this, we had them do conversions here while they're in the gap years. And now that's the red, that's the extra taxes that they paid during those gap years to do the conversions. However, what you'll notice is all this gray, literally the required minimum distributions went away. They did not have to pay required minimum distributions because they did strategic Roth conversions during the gap years when their tax bracket was much lower. And by executing this strategy, they were able to save over $2.1 million in taxes and also add almost $340,000 to the bottom line of their portfolio because there was less tax drag over the decades. So I don't know about you, but I would love to save $2 million on taxes. This was huge. But many people that I see are just not thinking about this. They're not projecting long term. They're not doing a multi-year tax projection. And they too get caught up in paying way too much in taxes because of these required minimum distributions. Another point I'll make on that is, as you're getting closer to retirement, depending on your income bracket while you're working, you may want to consider putting more money into your Roth 401k. And if all of your money is inside of your 401k, you could also take advantage of doing the backdoor Roth IRA. We've created a great video on that. Go ahead and take a look at the backdoor Roth IRA strategy. I think you'll like it. And the third big mistake that I see people make is failing to plan for healthcare and long-term care in retirement. If you don't plan for medical expenses and long-term care expenses, that's one way to derail your retirement dreams. Medicare can cost you anywhere from $350 a month up to $800 a month, depending on the impact of IRMA, and also what Medicare Part C plan you choose, whether it's Medicare Advantage or Medigap. Long-term care expenses can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can get really expensive. And so I'm going to show you a case study of how to factor in these expenses into your plan to ensure that you stay on track and you don't run out of money. In order to do that, I'm going to show you a couple that had planned well for long-term care. And when I say plan well, here's the expenses that you need to be thinking about. So out here in San Diego, the average expense can be anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000 per month if you need to have long-term care. And so for our clients, we like to use the upper end of that range just to make sure that they're protected. So we'll typically run a scenario and we'll show someone spending $12,000 a month, so $144,000 a year. We'll inflate that at 4%, which is higher than the national inflation rate right now. And we'll typically run that scenario for several years, sometimes 5 years, to show, so national averages right now are that people go into assisted living and stay for about 3 years. By showing what happens if you actually exceed the national average, we'd rather take a conservative assumption. So this is a situation, we had a client who was on track, everything was buttoned up, they had great investments, they were getting ready to retire, everything was good, and their probability of not running out of money under normal circumstances was 100%. And they were sitting pretty good. But the challenge came when we started thinking about, what if you actually need to go into assisted living? Or what if you need to have some help at home and there's some medical expenses down the road? And this is something that a lot of people don't factor in, unfortunately, but you really should. And so we modeled that scenario where our client needed to get some help and went into an assisted living facility, and you could see that it was going to cost them $2.36 million. Because it's not just the expense of going into the assisted living facility, it's actually the lost, it's the opportunity cost. It's money that's no longer compounding and growing and gaining interest and growing with the market. So it's really a double whammy. And that's why it cost them almost $2.4 million. So what we did for them, we don't sell long-term care insurance, but we referred them to somebody who does. And so what we found is, by having a long-term care policy in place, should this event happen to them, the long-term care policy was going to actually pay out enough money to where they weren't going to lose money. They were actually going to come out ahead because they were able to buy a really good policy for fairly reasonable rates. And the way to think about this, a good age to get really serious about long-term care insurance is right around age 60. So if you're not quite there yet, maybe you want to start shopping now if you're in your 50s. If you're in your 60s, every year that you delay, it gets more expensive. So definitely start shopping it now. But and if you're in your 70s, it's probably too late. It's going to be too expensive. But long-term care insurance is one of those things that you think you're not going to need it, but unfortunately, 75% of us are going to need it because the statistics are clear. 3 out of 4 people are needing help with aging. So it's the activities of daily living, if eating, bathing, dressing, getting out of bed, cooking, those sorts of things. If you can't do 2 of the 7 activities of daily living, then you can qualify to have your long-term care policy start to pay benefits, whether it's getting help around the house or if you have to move into an assisted living facility or a skilled nursing facility. But this is one of those things that even if you have a really buttoned up financial plan, this is one of those hidden landmines that I see people can step on and really blow up or derail a lifetime of planning and saving for retirement. So don't let that mistake happen to you. While we're on the topic of medical expenses in retirement, the other thing I want to point out to you is be careful to not trigger excessive cost on your Medicare. You become Medicare eligible at 65 and you're going to pay extra money based on your income. And there's something known as IRMA. And IRMA is definitely not your friend. It's income related monthly adjustment amount. Essentially, it's a surcharge on Medicare. So the more income that you show, whether it's from dividends or from Roth conversions or pension income or Social Security, the more income you show, the more you could potentially pay in your Medicare costs. And for a great video on Medicare, check this one out here. But what you need to know is be careful as you're doing your tax planning when it comes to Medicare expenses, because if you make some wrong moves here and there, it can make your Medicare get really, really expensive. So watch out for that landmine too. So let's recap the 3 big mistakes. The first one is having the wrong claiming strategy when it comes to Social Security. The second one is ignoring your RMDs and the subsequent large tax bill that's going to come with it. And the third one is not adequately planning for medical costs in retirement. These 3 pitfalls can literally destroy your retirement. Make sure that you choose the right timing strategy for Social Security, have a good plan in place to manage your RMDs and lower your lifetime tax bill, and be prepared for healthcare and medical expenses in retirement. Even if you've already retired, you still have time to course correct. If you need a partner on the journey, get in touch with me. My team and I are happy to help you. Avoiding these mistakes is just as important as saving and investing well. Check out these videos to keep your retirement planning on track.